Welcome to Soundstory. I'm Tom Ackerman. It has been a treat to be able to tell people stories. Actually, they tell the story. I'm just here as a guy, just having fun and listening to life stories. And I learn a lot, too. And we're going to learn a lot about Nile Ramsbottom, who joins us in Studio C at KMOX Radio. Is this your first time at KMOX?
It is.
Are you a KMOX listener?
I am.
And
a big Tom Ackerman fan.
oh,
by the
my
way.
gosh. That's why you picked me to do this?
It was.
Wow. Well, I enjoy having conversations, and I respect you a ton because I've read your book. I have learned about your life. I know you had a long run at Ralston Purina that I want to get into, but beyond that, renewable energy and a lot of the things that you have been able to do. Let me first ask you, though, what brought you to want to do Soundstory? Or did somebody approach you to do Soundstory?
No, that was my own idea, but it was I thought it's kind of a unique thing when I heard about it, and I thought let's just do that for the family. So that's what it's all about.
And your family, tell me about them. You have 3 children.
Three boys, yes.
Tell me about the boys.
So the oldest, I have to think about this because I think he's way too old, but I think he's 57.
Yeah, if I was going to say 40s and 50s.
Yeah, 57, 47, and 46.
All right. I'm 49 next week, so I'm right in there.
You are.
I'm right in there. What was it like raising boys?
Well, it was a great experience. Most all very rewarding, but sometimes challenging. But I tried to be there for them. With Purina, I was traveling somewhat, but was able to be a coach in a lot of their ball teams and just try to help them do the best they could with their talents and just give them opportunities to learn more, do more, and let them settle out where they wanted to be in life.
Did you go back to your own childhood of working Iowa farm, the discipline of getting up every day and working and pushing through each day? Did you instill that discipline, that work ethic to them?
I think the answer is yes, but I give them all the credit in the world. I lamented once in a while that I didn't have the same ability my dad did because we didn't have a lot of things to do where we were raised. With my boys. But yeah, I think what I learned later in life was the watching them watch me. I guess they learned a lot from that, even though I didn't have all the chores to assign them and to give them that I experienced.
They experienced you as a corporate officer, as an executive, as somebody who, directed people and you had people working under you. And then it was all suddenly taken away. I know I'm skipping around, but the book that I read, which is excellent, which is called Prepare Leadership from Farm Boy to Times Square, really pulls you in, first of all. But there are a lot of stories in the book, and one of them was when after you spent 33 years at Purina.
Yes.
And there was a buyer that came in, and I think within like 48 hours, everybody was fired.
All 5 officers were fired.
And
I was one of them.
And you did not see that coming.
No.
So,
as a matter of fact, I was just offered a country club membership a month or two before that was finalized.
Wow. Yeah. So you're like ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the reason I'm bringing that up in relation to your boys is I'm trying to remember in terms of timeline how old they were during that period of time of your life.
They were raised. They grew up in the Purina culture, and then after that, they were all out of the house. I mean, they were all in college or had been through college.
Because you were 55.
I was 55, yes.
Which is not much older than me right now. So
Mm-hmm.
you're a young man. You're 55. You've been around, but you were the oldest officer at that time.
Correct.
And I think a big part of your life story, as much as years 1 through 55 were important, is from 55 on. Because of a huge change in your life, you had to make an adjustment you were not prepared for. You had to look for a job. And I'm certain that that first moment that they relieved you of your duties, so to speak, was very jarring. Tell me about that first reaction, those first few days.
Well, it was really unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't really believe it. I thought they must have made a mistake. 33 years was a long time for a company, and I knew some of the Danforth. So, I mean, had been around a long time, so I thought I'm kind of a foundation here, but you're not a foundation. I learned that really quickly. So it's over in a heartbeat. And so I was devastated. I had some friends who experienced the same thing, that went through several years of anxiety and depression, and why me, and who was the conspiracy, or what was the conspiracy against me that caused me to get fired. And I gave up. I was angry for about a week, and then I decided I need to get on with my life.
So then that's understandable. A week is a good deal of time, but again, I think a pretty short deal of time for you to go through that, and then you put it away. And then what did you do? You went to look through all of your contacts, and you rolled up your sleeves and you said, let's get after it. My job now is to get a job.
Yes, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, it was an interesting experience, a lot of opportunity if I were willing to start at the base and work my way up. People said, oh, my gosh, your resume is super with all your experience. You're just fantastic. We'd love to have you, but we're not going to pay you for that. We'll start you out where everyone starts out, but with your skills and your resume, you'll go right to the top. But you'll have to earn all of that from the beginning.
So you were making what, about a third of what you were?
Yeah. So I did start out and was making about a third.
And how long did that take, finding that job? That was a while.
Yeah, it took a little while. Things were, the economy was not the best in the world at that time, and it took a little while and a lot of Rolodex, a lot of contacts with people, but, it worked out. Found the right one.
There was something else in the book, actually in the beginning of the book, which is really good. I read it while I was at spring training with the Cardinals. There was an accident. I believe it was a contractor.
Yes.
Right? That was working for you that didn't exactly follow guidelines, but protocol, there was a protocol, but there was an accident. And after that, a lot of people wanted to back away, wanted to resign. Yeah. How did you handle that situation?
I remember that distinctly. I heard the explosion, actually. The guy was welding at a place we shouldn't have been welding. And my office was about a block away, but I heard the explosion, and I immediately knew something bad had happened. So I grabbed my hard hat, ran out of the door, and got in my car and had to drive there. And this gentleman was laying on the floor, and he had the explosion, the top of the tank had blown off. And a lot of people, once we got 911, got the ambulance, and he survived, and he's doing fine today. But during that period of time, a lot of people wanted to quit and resign, and I said, not today. I'll listen to you tomorrow, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, but I'm not going to accept any resignations today. The truth was, inside, I thought, I'm 55. I'm too old for this. I don't need this either. So maybe I'll quit. But that is not what I said.
Because you decided, And did you have previous experience in this, that decisions made on the spot or with heavy emotion are not the best decisions? You should take a step back. Is that what you were?
Yeah, take a step back and really see what the situation was, and I believed it could be preventable for the future. And let's just get through this situation, and then we'll deal with it tomorrow.
And this is a totally different situation, but I remember in covering the Rams when they won the Super Bowl, and Dick Vermeil retired and stepped away from football. He emotionally, as we all know, he could get emotional, but he decided, that's it, I'm going to go off on the mountaintop. He still says that he wishes he hadn't done that he probably, let emotion tell the streets, should have taken a step back. It's probably a good lesson in life for all of us, that you should take a step back and review. Even you get a nasty email. Is it best to respond in anger right away, or should you take a step back, let it simmer for a minute, and cool off and think about it?
Yeah, I think you should take the step back. Now, do I always do that? No, but that is the right advice.
What do you think about overcoming there's just two things right there? I mean, I'm sure you've had plenty. You had a divorce. You've had health issues. What can you teach, or what did you learn about overcoming difficulty? I feel like it's a big part of your life story is maybe gaining strength from adverse situations.
Well, it's a great question. First of all, I'm a Christian and believe very strongly in Jesus and the strength that he gives. So, but what I learned early in life, Tom, was I was average in everything I ever did. I was average. I lettered in football 4 years and played basketball and did music and singing and solos and so forth, and still do, and ended up being a tennis player, USTA tournament tennis later in life, and I golf now. So that's a sports program. What I learned, though, and an average student, what I learned from all of that was if I wanted to be better than average, I need to prepare. So preparation was, and that's why the name of the book is Prepare for Leadership, because if you prepare properly, and it's back to your question about take a step back and wait and just think about this a little bit before you react. So I learned if I prepared adequately, I could be not perfect, but better than average.
You could also not have to go back to zero, right? If you prepare,
yes,
then you could go back to 4 or 3.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that true?
So it's like having, so here's what we're going to do, guys and gals. Plan A, but it's always good to have a plan B. Now, some people will say, because you don't have to go back to the beginning and start over, you just adjust and go on. A lot of people say, well, that's kind of a weak management style, because if you know what you want to do, you just go ahead and do it. Well, things don't always work out. Things come from out of the blue that you don't expect, so you better have another plan.
You say you're average and all this stuff. I don't know, man. I mean, I see somebody who could do a lot of things and still can. That doesn't sound average to me. A very, very, very small percentage of people in this country get to be an executive at a company like Ralston Purina or any of the others.
Yeah, I guess so.
But you don't see that. You don't see yourself like that. You're very humble about what you.
Well, I try to be. Humility is very important.
Yeah. Looking back at your life, so I want to go back to the farm.
Okay.
Tell me about Iowa. What do you remember?
Well, Iowa was a great place to grow up and live. We had corn, soybeans, cattle, hogs, and typical things that go on in Iowa, and you had to work hard.
Remind me of the town.
It was just outside of Creston.
Okay.
Yeah, southwest Iowa. And you just had to work hard. It was all about the farm. And whatever your job assignments were, you did that.
What were they?
Well, it's kind of funny. The name Ramsbottom, my family's very English, so you kind of regimented idea. So you had to do whatever you were assigned to do. So all the field work and everything. But when you became 12, if you had worked and prepared enough, you got to be called a man. Well, what a man was, I learned as a boy. that meant you went to the field and with a lunch bucket and went out early in the morning and came home at dusk. So you meant you didn't get to hang around the house too much.
How early are we talking about? 4, 5?
No, I didn't. We never did it quite that, but seven or so. Home at 6. Yeah, pretty well.
Year round, hot days.
Yeah,
cold days,
and a lot of cold days. A lot of cattle to feed in the wintertime, and they need to eat hay and grain and different things. So, yes.
Were you too wrapped up in the everyday to think about this, or did you dream about what you might become when you were young?
I never dreamed about what I might become. I just took advantage of opportunities as they presented themselves. And one thing I might mention, though, was my love of horses. It was kind of an interesting thing because I think if you remember the book, there's some analogies in there about horses. What I learned from training horses, I learned later on in life.
Because you didn't know how to ride. They just put you on a horse.
Yeah, well, I bugged my dad about getting a horse. He did not like horses, and he didn't want them on his farm, but he did. I give him all the credit in the world. He did get me an unbroken 2-year-old when I was 10, and I had no assistance or guidance. Read a lot of books and got on this 2-year-old and got thrown off and cried, I'm sure, and got back on again and just kept going. And eventually she let me break her, I think would be the proper analogy, and then trained and showed her, and I learned from her, and then she became a great broodmare. So, and then I did that throughout my teenage years, getting money from selling colts and training, showing, and selling them, buying other horses, doing the same with them. So when I went to college, I ended up with 7 horses from the original one. So I learned a lot about horse trading too during that period of time, as well as the skill of doing that. But as I said earlier, I played football and basketball and other sports too.
From the age of 10, when you learned, then when did you break her? You said in a year? Or?
Yeah, in a year.
Okay.
I wasn't very old.
Yeah, so you're 11.
Yeah.
Was there freedom in that? Did you feel independent?
Yeah. And it gave me some confidence and freedom. And, that's when I started to learn. But it didn't dawn on me till I got older that, gosh, horses, if you're consistent and reliable and they trust you, good things can happen. And I think later in life, a lot of people don't like this analogy. Well, yeah, people are the same way. If they trust you and you're consistent and reliable, you can make pretty good friends and employees.
I think it's a good analogy. I mean, we're all living beings. I mean, yeah. I talk to my dogs like they're humans.
Yeah, there you go.
They trust me.
Yeah.
I take great care. I've never owned a horse. I've ridden horses. Do you still ride?
I did up until a year ago. I had a bad accident on one I was training, a young one, and broke 8 ribs.
Oh, my goodness.
6 in the front and 2 under my shoulder blade. And,
last year?
Yeah. Well, it was about a year and a half ago. And it was 10 months and sleeping in a recliner. Oh. I couldn't lay down. And so my lovely wife, Terry, said, with tears in her eyes one day, she says, "You're not going to keep doing this, are you?" I said, "I guess not." So I still have a horse, but I do have somebody else ride it, and I do a little training from the ground.
I think you're wired to something inside you wants to do it one more time because you're all about the perseverance. Because when you were a kid, you got thrown off.
Well, I got back on that horse again. and wrote it and even filmed it. So, but it was after that my wife made that plea. So I said, yeah, she says, why do you want to do that? I said, well, it's probably ego, stupidity, and whatever else, but I got to get back on again. And did.
I mentioned some of the health issues that you had, and you rode after those, right? So am I right that you dealt with some surgeries? Is that
Yeah,
right?
I had. Well, that was the timing was a little different. So that I kind of gave you my youth experience there and the horses, but I've had a horse experience my whole life.
Right.
But that one, later on in life, I had ended up with 4 detached retinas, and 3 in this eye and 1 in this one, and that they had to be sewn back in place, the retina, and gas bubbles injected. You keep your head down for 2 weeks to keep the pressure on the retina, and it's a laborious thing. But and the surgeon was through all 4 of them. He couldn't understand. He's a young man, noted surgeon, and he couldn't understand. He said, you're so healthy. I don't know what happened to you. Do people hit you? Are you boxer? Things like that. I said, no, it just happened. But thank goodness. That's been 20-some years ago now, and it's been fine ever since.
Any other health issues that you had to?
I had prostate cancer as well.
I remember hearing you talk about that as well.
Yeah, it was that was pretty devastating too. But you get faith in that things will work out, and they did.
I know it's like I'm throwing all these big, hard life moments at you, but there's another one, and that is divorce, which is never easy for anybody. Tell me about that and how that changed your life or shaped you.
Well, all those events were happening fairly soon. I mean, the getting fired, the cancer, the retinas, and the divorce. I mean, those are. They always say there's 5 top things in life that are so hard to get over. That was, I guess, among those top 5. That was a very difficult time. The boys were all grown at that time. And I guess I'll just sum it up to say that in retrospect, I was a farm boy. My wife at that time was not a farm girl, but a local girl in Iowa. And I think she wanted a farmer for a husband. And I didn't know really what I want, but I knew I just wanted to take a step forward and succeed in life. And I lived all over the 4 quadrants of the United States, so I moved a lot, and she was not a big fan of ever moving. And so even though I tried to make things pretty easy for her and calm at home, it didn't turn out that way.
That was mostly during your time with Purina, right?
Yeah.
Where you're moving around a lot. Where'd you live?
Lived in Georgia, lived in Kentucky, lived in Spokane, Washington, Ohio, Illinois.
You got them.
I think
right?
I said them all. Yeah.
One better than the other? All about the same?
They're all good. People are wonderful everywhere. They're different, but it's all good. A lot of good memories from every place we were.
I've only been to Seattle briefly, covering the Rams, but otherwise haven't spent any time in the Northwest. What is it like? What was the Northwest like?
Spokane is what they term on the dry side of the mountains, the Cascade Mountains, and Seattle's on the wet side, as the locals refer to it. Spokane was great. It was the dry side, and we didn't get all the rain. Blue skies, stars out at night. Spokane is probably the most ideal climate of any place I ever lived, but it's a long way if you're a Midwesterner from the Midwest. But anyway, I enjoyed Spokane's really, really neat.
Kentucky, now you're talking. Did you
Yeah, Louisville.
So you talk about horses.
Horses, yeah.
You're right in the middle of it there.
Yeah, I'm over to Lexington fairly often over there. Yeah.
Yeah. What was that like? Did you have fun with that?
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, enjoyed being there and seeing the horses, and that was back in the era or day when you could go visit a horse farm and didn't have to have all the protocol and everything. You could walk right up and look at Secretariat and that type of thing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Georgia, so Atlanta?
Macon.
Macon.
Just south of Atlanta. Deep south. That was back in the 60s. That was the Martin Luther King era and, some of the riots and things that were going on there. So I learned a lot from the Deep South and the Southerners, and I don't know that we want to talk about this now, but I would just say certainly there's a lot of racial injustice that went on. There's no question. I would never deny that. I would also say that there was some good experiences that I learned from some white men that and women that were not as bad as sometimes you hear about. They had compassion that we don't hear about.
No, it's good to pass along. And when you were in Ohio, what part of the state was that?
It was Circleville, which is just south of Columbus, about 40 miles.
All right.
And I learned, we were talking about football earlier, Tom.
That's football country.
Yeah. And I learned there that for Ohio State, young 4 or 5-star athletes in Ohio would rather go. They could start anywhere they wanted to go in college, but they would rather go, even if it meant sitting on the bench, if they could play for the Ohio State University.
That's just awesome, and frustrating as an Indiana fan that I can't compete with those guys.
Yeah.
But that is what it's all about.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, that's what they love. They love football.
They do.
What position did you play in football?
I played end, defense and offense. That was back in the era when you went both ways.
And basketball?
Forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're tall.
Yeah. I was then, but
There you are now. How tall were you then?
6'2".
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was decent. Not the biggest, but.
And golf, did you pick that up early, mid?
Later.
Later?
And tennis I picked up later as well, but probably a better tennis player than golfer. But
that's both are hard to master, though. Golf for sure, but tennis requires discipline as well.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
Definitely does. The thing I played singles. The thing about you learned about tennis, that ball comes over the net, it's all yours. I mean, there's no looking around for your buddy.
Yeah, nobody's helping you. So you staying active is a part of your success, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Keeping your mind and your body moving.
Trying to, yes, absolutely.
And faith obviously is a big part of your life. I read a line from you saying that something along the lines, it's more important to give than to receive, which we all believe, but giving gifts to others really enhances your life and theirs at the same time. Is that how you see it?
It is, and what's interesting about giving gifts is that if you give a gift expecting something in return, it never happens. But if you give a gift just out of the kindness of your heart and wanting to help others, it comes back to you in different ways that you, and that's the beauty of it. That's the reward that you didn't expect, but you get.
Give me an example of some. I know how humble you are and all that, but where you have not only just family, and you can mention that too, but where you have improved someone's life.
My wife and I started a charity 17 years ago. Well, it's been more than that now, but for 17 years to help veterans called God Cares. And we wanted them to know that God cared about them, and so did we. And so we helped them find employment because we think there's dignity in employment. I don't care, even if you work at McDonald's, you go to work and the kids see you and so forth. So that's what we did for 17 years. And during that period of time, we helped over 2,000 veterans and their families get to a better place in life. So very rewarding. I got new friends that I never dreamed I would have by doing that from the veteran friends I'm talking about.
That's really great. I think I still think today that people don't realize how much veterans depend on those types of organizations, getting me from point A to point B to a doctor's appointment or dental or an attorney, or there's just so many things that we have in our lives that I don't know if we take it for granted, but we don't think about it
Yeah,
sometimes.
and you have to think about their lives. And I wasn't in the military. I had an uncle that fought in World War II and Korea and Vietnam, so he had done more than his share. So he was my inspiration for starting this. But uh, you don't think about the way the military works and getting orders and obeying orders and everything when they're out. We think we're a wonderful world to live in. It's kind of a cold, cruel world for them when they come back, because we're all busy about our thing. We're friendly, but we're busy about doing our lives. They need help and support and a little direction and encouragement because they're not used to that. And so that's what we found. So helping others succeed using your God-given talents to do that, I think, is important. Later, and by the way, on the God Cares now is merged into Focus Marines, which is an organization that does a little bit different help for veterans, but they've incorporated our mission, and they're doing the same thing that we were doing, but they got more people, and it works better for them. But in addition to that, recently, you mentioned staying active. I've been asked to be director of mentoring at Darden Presbyterian Church. So I'm mentoring young people to be mentors, and then mentoring the young people as well. And it's really all about listening, and if you can help them avoid a few road bumps in life, potholes, then we don't have to experience all of them, and that can help them get on with their lives and do whatever their mission is.
Is that how you conducted business when you were a leader? Is that how you learn? Did you learn over time how to become a more effective leader by mentoring, giving, finding pleasure in other people's successes other than your own?
Yeah, I think so. I always wanted to be a coach, was what I thought I was going to be when I grew up. And then I found out later in life you can be the president of a company, but you're still a coach, I found. And so helping young people succeed, I always hired a lot of young people at Purina, and the same thing with the Renewable Energy Group, and watching them grow and succeed. Once in a while you make a mistake, but by and large they are a lot of good people just want an opportunity, and then they'll grow with it. And so that's rewarding to see that happen.
Renewable Energy Group ended up being listed on NASDAQ.
Yes.
Tell me about that journey.
Well, that started at 55, and I learned some things I'd never done before. I'd done a lot of things as an officer of Purina, but I'd never raised capital, for example. But I'll back up just a minute from there. A lot of mistakes were made. We didn't have any money. There were just three of us that started it, and we made a lot of mistakes, learned from them, one more foot forward, and things. I just wanted to be a little bit better every day if we could, and just learn and pursue and make sure I was aware of new ideas and plans, and made a lot of partnerships, convinced people that we had a good idea, and which didn't always happen, but by and large it did. That's the employees. I told every employee that I hired, I said, this is at best a 50-50 deal. We may make it, we may not, but don't come if you're faint of heart, because this is not for you. But we ended up doing it, and I will have to say one story though. It's kind of funny about raising capital, because we had some success, and now it was time to expand, and we were building refineries for others, operating them as well, and we were number one in the biodiesel business and still are in America. But going to New York City, I did a lot of road shows, and there's a lot of cities that have money. But if you want to raise a lot of money, New York's where you have to go. So we were meeting with these banks, just two of us, meeting with these big banks, all the big banks you can never think of: Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse, all of the big banks, Bank of America. Anyway, they're all the same. I was the only silver-haired guy speaking in the room. Everybody was young, up to about age 40, MBAs, and most of them had law degrees as well, and they were on the fast track. Smart people, great questions, but I never will forget that experience. That holy cow, I'm really out of water here.
But with the improvements in technology, in terms of communication, I mean, you're right there with them. You can also text and email and, connect with people around the world. You can do it today, even more so. But kind of how has that changed? I don't know if you ever think about, I do, how technology was during this phase of my life to today. It's just completely different. How did we do what we did without cell phones or email or internet?
I know. That's a great question. But back on that, so I thought, Nile, if you were, people say you're a creator and an innovator. If you really were, you'd have figured out a business to do that didn't require feedstock and processing and transportation and distribution and all those mundane things that are required in a business. You'd have thought of some technology thing that it would have been a lot easier to do. But anyway, I didn't do that. But so back to your question about technology, I think it's wonderful. I mean, we have in business, in medicine, in science, in our home lives as well. I mean, we have conveniences we never dreamed of when I was being raised, and at the same time, and you're right, communicate anywhere in the world instantly. At the same time, I think that's got a negative side to it, which I think one of the things that I would say from a negative standpoint is, excuse me, but we don't communicate as well with each other as we once did. I don't see, and I'm talking about my age group too. I'm not talking about young people necessarily, but we don't communicate as well. We can't exchange ideas very well. We can't take differences of opinion and discuss them and learn from each other. We don't listen very well. I mean, those are kind of some negatives, and I think, is that the result of technology? I don't know. I don't think technology's helped us in that endeavor at all. It's hurt us, I think.
Probably partly, yeah. I mean, right over your head is, I'm sitting here looking at TV and Fox News. I'm not singling out Fox News, but just in general, these 24-hour news channels have us locked in. I typically don't. I mean, I listen to KMOX, I scroll Twitter, get my news, and then go about my day. I've kind of scaled back on the use of my phone, and I only do it for certain things. But still, it's there if I wanted to watch 24-hour news, and it would probably try to shape my opinion on things. It's not as much we're on common ground and we're discussing politics anymore.
Right.
We're all taking sides. I see what you're saying on that.
Yeah. And or even in a negotiation, I'm not thinking politics at all there, but I used to love to negotiate and wrote a course on it, actually, The Art of Negotiation, but just being able to have difference of opinion and you really learn from each other if you take the time to listen, because any one person doesn't have all the good ideas in the world, but you can learn if.
Well, yeah. I totally know where you're going on that too. Because there used to be, you're older than I am, but like when I was younger, you'd go, have a cocktail, or you'd go have lunch, or you'd go play golf, and deals were made on the course, and you talk it out, and you spend time together. Yeah, I like the guy.
Yeah.
Or now, I've consulted or worked with people and never met them. It's all on Zoom.
Yeah.
We'll Zoom, and then you click the leave button, and it's over.
Yeah.
It's just not the interpersonal relationships, I think, is where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's not as much there.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That's kind of the negative. And so, is that a result of technology that we were praising earlier? Maybe. Yeah, probably is. But back in the day that we're talking about, exchange of contracts was mail. And holy cow, that takes a long time.
No, you can move things fast today.
Yeah.
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 Without a doubt. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I'm really enjoying this. So I want to make sure that we fit everything in that you wanted to talk about. We've talked about your upbringing. We've talked about your business somewhat. I didn't go too deep into detail, but some of the ups and downs and challenges. We talked about your faith. I want to make sure that we cover all angles of that and how that has played a big part of your life as well.
Yeah, it just does. It's kind of part of my daily life. I just have that element of faith in my mind and all the time, and I try to treat other people the way I would want to be treated, the golden rule, if you will, but just try to be a good guy and listen but I will, if I can just say one more thing about you tapped something on faith. I remember this very distinctly with the 4 retinas, the detached retinas. I got really good at understanding when I had a detachment. It was a black vertical curtain in my eye, and it moved, and I couldn't get rid of it. So I got really good at understanding, I got to go to the hospital. And I learned from having a detached retina, you don't go home and get a shaving kit or anything. No, you're right to the hospital for surgery. It's just like that. So on the way to doctor, I think I knew what was going to happen. And I got really angry with God. I didn't use any swear words, but I was really mad and upset. And why me? And I've tried to be patient through 3 of these, and now I was angry. I don't get angry very often, but I was mad and angry. And the doctor, sitting like you are, Tom, said, well, now you got another detachment. We got to do surgery. I'll be down there in an hour. The hospital, go in. The worst possible news I could hear at that moment. And a calm came over me like I can't explain. I'd been through it. I knew it was going to happen. Stitches, head down for 2 weeks, drudgery. I knew all that was coming. And when he gave me that bad news, I thought, okay, God, you're with me. Let's just get this thing done. Anyway, that has been one experience I had.
Wow. That's pretty amazing, actually. If you could recreate, that feeling, but I'm sure it's come over you, not only in that scenario, but probably some others too. Anything else that you would want people to walk away from this video knowing about you?
I can't think of anything.
Did I cover it all?
You covered it. You did a great job, Tom. You did a great job. I'm proud. You read the whole darn book, too.
I did.
I would say one thing, and I'm not a mathematician, but if I had to sum up my book, and I think it would be my life, and Prepare for Leadership. So what I learned was preparation can help you, give you confidence. You prepare properly. You give you confidence in all situations, a sense of calm. And with the sense of calm and confidence, you can make good decisions. Can make good decisions, not always, but you can make good decisions. Good decisions can help you with people, can help you run corporations, can help you in every endeavor in life.
And finding it within yourself to take ownership, accountability, rather than saying, well, this happened, so it must be someone's fault, or scapegoat, or
It's so easy to do.
Yeah, right.
And I find myself once in a while thinking that, who can I blame this on? And it's tough to say, hey, it's up to you, buddy. You got to wear it.
Really enjoyed spending time with you.
I enjoyed it with you too, Tom.
I'm glad that you chose me, and thanks for listening to us. I hope KMOX provides you with all you need.
Good. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for doing Soundstory.
You're welcome.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Appreciate it. Nile Ramsbottom. I'm Tom Ackerman.